It's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink and listen. Zombie Outbreak, New York City by Augustus Cordova. Part 1. The day kicked me in the teeth before I'd even had my second coffee. Started with the boss tearing into me loud, brutal, in front of everyone. Well, I'd screwed up an account. Some clients got overcharged and was now acting like they'd given them a free pass to not pay a damn cent. It wasn't world-ending. Nobody died. Well, wolf from a heart that didn't matter. That place was a war zone. Big egos, constant backstabbing, and a blame game that never stopped. And me, I was a perfect fall guy. I've been messing up more than usual lately. I knew it. Everyone did. Once failure gets its claws into you, it drags you down fast. Success. That was for the Davidsons of the world. Smug, smirking bastards who never missed a shot at someone else's expense. After the boss finished verbally gutting me, I needed air. Just 5 minutes to let the heat fade from my face. I stepped outside, took a couple of shaky breaths in the concrete courtyard. That's when it happened. Something slapped my shoulder, wet, cold, and revolting. Goddamn pigeon sitting on the ledge above had dropped a bomb on me and shrieked it off like it owned the sky. Swearing under my breath, I ducked into the lobby bathroom, praying no one I knew was around. Scrubbed at my shirt for 20 minutes, trying not to gag. Back at my desk, 6 missed calls were waiting. That's a flood of emails. Davidson, one booth over, was staring at me like he was already drafting my obituary. His smile was pure venom. Well, the day just kept getting worse. I guzzled through enough bitter coffee to give myself tremors. I ate a ridiculously overpriced sandwich at my desk, which turned my gut into a furnace. Then I sent a design to the printers. The problem was it hadn't been greenlit by the client. Realized my screw-up too late. Oh, the cherry on top. Some copy I wrote for a new campaign. Thought it sounded sharp until Davidson leaned over and said, "This makes 0 sense." He was right. It didn't. I was sure the bird crap smell lingered, too. Well, by the time I left the office, my nerves were shot. Felt hollowed out. A walking wreck. Living the dream, I muttered to no one, trying to smile. But I couldn't. I stared at the pavement, dragging my feet toward the train station. Working from home? Forget it. The boss liked his little kingdom filled with trembling underlings. So every day I commuted in from some deadened suburb to suffer in person. It was soul-killing, but the standard. There were plenty of us on that daily grind. Once hopeful, now cracked. We all had dreams once. They all got eaten by the city. All I wanted now was my bed. A blackout sleep. No dreams, no thoughts. Riding the New York subway is like stepping into a different world. One with its own lords, its own rhythm, its own ghosts. The air down there's thick, smells like steel, piss, and something older. Something rotten that no one's cleaned in decades. You get on. Keep your head down. Try not to make eye contact unless you're looking for trouble. Seats are cracked. Metal poles slick with grime and the sweat of 10,000 strangers. The lights flicker like they're barely holding on. So are most of the people. The train screeches through the tunnels like it's angry to be alive, shoving its way under the city. Some cars are packed shoulder to shoulder. Others are weirdly empty. Too empty. That's when you know to stay standing. Maybe it's the stench. Maybe it's someone curled up on the bench, muttering to themselves, twitching like a live wire. You get used to pretending nothing phases you. Sirens above ground, screams below. Someone starts yelling about the end times and another guy selling candy bars out of a filthy gym bag. No one listens to you either. You just ride the rails and hope you get where you're going before the city swallows your whole. My platform was at the far end of the station. Rush hour had thinned, but the place still buzzed with tired gray faces. Pair of bored-looking cops drove through, nodding to a station worker like it was just another Tuesday. Food stores lined one side, their greasy aromas hanging in the air, but I didn't even look. My stomach was still waging war from that lunch. Kept walking until I reached the platform. Small crowd had already gathered. Some had earbuds jammed in. One woman stood nearby, maybe my age, dressed in a brand I'd never be able to afford unless I sold a kidney. Most people, as always, were glued to their screens, lost in their own worlds. Me was just trying to survive another goddamn day. One guy looked like he'd been dragged through hell and forgot to get back up. Mid-50s, maybe older, judging by the lines carved deep into his face. His suit was crumpled like he slept in it. Tire skew cheap photo ID swinging on a lanyard around his neck. He wasn't scrolling, wasn't reading, just staring into nothing. Kind of stare that comes from too many years getting chewed up and sped out. I see you, man, I thought. Then I shoved my hands deep into my coat pockets and waited for the train to show up. Few minutes later, right on time, miracle of miracles, it rolled in. Lately, all we gotten were delays, cancellations, excuses. This felt like a rare win. I climbed on with the herd, I scanning for a seat like a predator in a dying zoo. Found one to the left. Good leg room, too. Slid into it just before a frazzled-looking businesswoman with a rat's nest bum could claim it. First win of the damn day. Maybe the only one. Well, the seat was hard as hell, but I sank into it. Shifted my weight and tried to relax. My eyes closed. The office crap was still bouncing around in my skull, though, like broken glass in a blender. That AI startup account was turning into a full-blown disaster. The CEO was a raging tech bro with too much caffeine and a god complex. Last video call, he was shouting at me, calling me useless, threatening to get me canned. Then I jotted upright, heart hewing. Dream, just a dream. I rubbed my eyes inside. The seat beside me was empty now. Weird. The train had been packed when we left the city, but people were starting to vanish. Few more shuffled toward the doors as we hit the next station. Checked the signs. Still a long ride ahead before I hit my stop. Slammed back down, shifted again, and tried to let go. Suddenly, it felt like the floor dropped out from under me, like I was falling backward into a black hole. I snapped forward, blinking hard. Dozing off again. Bad idea. I stepped out of the window, watching the blur of the world slide by. Apartment towers, greasy burger joints, headlights jammed and traffic unmoving, like everyone had just given up. The sun was slipping away, bleeding out over another wasted day. I shook my head, folded my arms tight across my chest, and shut my eyes again. And then came the sound. A sharp tiny blast that made me flinch. Some teenage punk a few rows down was blasting a video on his phone. No headphones, full volume. The kind of video that made someone scream with laughter like a lunatic. It played, looped, played again. Each time it stabbed into my ears like broken glass. I counted to 10. Why the hell do we all have to suffer through your brainless crap, kid? The carriage was thinning out now. Only about a dozen of us left. The businesswoman I'd beaten to the seat was still there, packing up like she was bailing at the next stop. Headphone girl, the one in the expensive gear, was further down, lost in her own world, probably streaming something at warp speed on her overpriced device. Lucky her. She didn't hear the noise. Didn't hear him. Well, the haggard man was still on board, too. Eyes half-lidded now, his head rocking gently with the rhythm of the train. Still stuck in whatever private hell he called his life. Same as the rest of us. God, he must have been dead on his feet. Not even registering the noise anymore. Or maybe life had just kicked the last little bit of fight out of him and he'd stopped giving a damn. I had a pair of crappy earbuds stuffed in my suit pocket. Could have plugged them in, hit play, tried to lose myself against the screeching echo of that kid's video. I glanced around the carriage. Still no sign of a conductor. Probably wasn't one. I remembered reading some article a while back. Budget cuts, staff reductions, union screaming, nobody listening. Most of these trains were just drivers now. No one else. Hadn't cared when I'd read it. Not until right then. If there'd been a conductor, I could have dumped this crap on them. Let them deal with the punk. Instead, it was on me to say something, and I just couldn't. I was worn down, bone-deep tired. The kind of tired that makes everything feel like too much. So, I kept my mouth shut, clamped my jaw, and squeezed my eyes closed. The noise kept drilling into my skull, though again. And again, same laugh track, same garbage. Then the sound started to shift, moving. I cracked an eye open. Oh, the kid was finally getting up, slouching toward the door. The train hissed to a stop. Door slid open and he stepped off. I muttered thank Christ, under my breath. A few more passengers followed him out. I watched him drift down the platform as the train lurched forward again, pulling away. It's all dark out now. The station vanished. Only the occasional glow from distant buildings lit the black. Damn. Still a long haul before we reached the edge of the city where my sad little suburb waited. Leaned back again, tried to let go, but my body had other ideas. Damn, I needed the bathroom. Well, normally I held it. The toilets on this train line were a damn gamble. Usually locked, busted, or soaked in something unholy. My bladder wasn't taking no for an answer tonight. So I stood, made my way toward the nearest one. Red lights on the door out of order. Of course it was. Just my luck. I grunted and kept walking, heading through the next carriage, then the next. Passed through half a dozen. Few were totally empty ghost carriages. Others had scattered souls hunched in their own little misery zones. At least I wouldn't have to wait in line. Finally reached the other restroom. Working unlocked. I stepped in and nearly gagged. The stench punched me in the face. Floor slick with mystery fluids. No dry spot to stand on. Get my feet wide, did what I had to do, and got the hell out. By now, I could have parked myself anywhere. Loads of open seats. We're creatures of habit, aren't we? Without even thinking, my body turned and carried me right back to what had already claimed as my seat, my spot. Not that I'd ever admit it meant anything. Well, you know what I mean. The woman with the killer headphones was still parked in her seat, lost in her noise-encelled bubble, bobbing her head like nothing existed outside her playlist. Across from her, the guy with a haunted face was still slumped in place too. Got sight of his shiny bald patch as I walked past. Same as before. That was it. Just the three of us now. Me, headphones girl, and dead-eyed guy. Rest of the carriage was a ghost town. I let myself hope. Maybe finally I could ride the rest of this damn trip in peace. Sumped into my seat, zone out. But just as I passed Mr. Were, something caught my eye. His face was soaked. Sweat dripping down from his temple, streaking along the side of his neck, pooling beneath the collar of his wrinkled shirt. His tie was crooked, his photo ID hanging askew. Under the sickly glow of the overhead train lights, his skin looked off. Pale, I mean sickly pale, like something had drained the color from him in the last half hour. I tried to remember if he looked that bad earlier, and he hadn't. No way. I froze. Didn't know about medicine, unless you count the time I did account work for some plastic surgery joint. This guy didn't need a facelift or fat sucked out of him. No, he needed help. I mean, real help. Still, I just stood there. What the hell was I supposed to do? He was a stranger, and I'd had enough of my own crap to deal with. I told myself this wasn't my business. I started to move on. And then he made a sound. Low, wet from deep in his throat. Not a snore. Not even close. No, it was wrong. Like his lungs were giving out. Something about it made my blood run cold. Death rattle. That's the phrase slammed into my brain before I could even stop it. I didn't want to deal with this, but I couldn't ignore it either. I leaned in. "Hey, mister. You good?" I asked. No response. Just that noise bubbling out between his lips, dragging slow and roar through the air. I pushed again. "Hey, you want me to get someone?" Silence. Truth was, even if he'd said yes, I had no idea who the hell I would get. No conductor, no staff, barely any other passengers. The place felt like a trap on wheels. Paced the aisle, thinking, cursing, and then I made the call. Screw waiting for some miracle. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The ring dragged on forever, long enough for the train to jerk to a stop again, spit out a few more passengers into the night, and keep moving. I almost bailed. Almost shoved the phone back in my pocket and pretended none of this had ever happened. Then someone finally picked up. I gave them everything. My name, the train line, the last station we'd passed. The next one I knew we were headed toward. Did my best to sound calm, but my voice was already tightening because right then I wasn't sure if the guy next to me was dying or if he was already gone. I described the guy's condition. His face, the sweat, that awful noise coming from deep in his chest. The dispatcher listened and then asked me his name. I don't know, I said. He's got an ID badge hanging from a lanyard. I leaned in closer, even though I didn't want to. His face on the badge was a ghost from another life, cleaner, younger, even half smiling. The name was printed underneath the photo, so I read it out, spelling out each letter slowly for the dispatcher. Then I kept going, reading the next line. Research Associate, Midas Institute. That name meant nothing to me. The dispatcher told me to hold, and then it was just me and the dying man with that rattling breath like something broken trying to keep moving. The hold music was dead air. My mind wandered. The Midas Institute. No clue. Could have been some boring think tank pushing numbers around. Or maybe it was big time. Rockets, medicine, disease, something dangerous. I started thinking if this guy had collapsed to work, there'd probably be a swarm of doctors poking him, treating him, locking it all down. But here it was just me watching something unravel. Maybe he'd been playing around with test tubes. Something in A mixed with B. Bad combo that turned his insides into a chemical war zone. I didn't know. The possibilities were endless, and so was the wait part too. Then finally someone came back on the line and the voice was different, sharper. No nonsense. How many people are on the train? They asked. That threw me. Me and some woman in this carriage. Maybe a few scattered in the others. No conductor, just the driver, I guess. A pause. Then the voice said firm and cold. I need you and the female passenger to leave the carriage you're in and move to the front of the train. Any other passengers you come across, tell them to do the same. I froze. Is that clear? They snapped. Something in their tone twisted in my gut. I barely got the words out. Yeah, but why? What's going on? My eyes were locked on the man now. The sweat on his skin gleamed under the flickering lights. His breathing rattled on like a faulty engine. My mind flashed back to that dumb idea about test tubes, about breathing something in, about things gone wrong in a lab. Oh, I said, barely a whisper more to myself than the voice. Then louder. Is he, infectious? Is that why you want us out? Silence. No confirmation, no denial. Just static and a feeling like a fist tightening in my throat. I swallowed, but my mouth was dry. My skin was burning. What is this? What does he have? I Still nothing. Just a pause that stretched too long until the voice came back cold as ever. Leave the carriage. Go to the front. Make sure everyone else does the same. This wasn't a request. It was a command. And they weren't offering explanations. I kept staring at the man. A new blotch had bloomed under his left eye. Dark, unnatural, like something was spreading beneath the surface. Like robbed. Phone still in hand, took a step back, then another. I backed away, stumbled against a seat, and caught myself. Few more steps and I was in the line of sight of the woman with the high-end headphones. "Hey, we have to move," I told her. She didn't react. No way she heard me with those things on, but she saw me. No question. She was looking right at me and choosing to pretend I didn't exist. I motioned to her, "Take off your headphones." I mouthed the words, "You have to listen to me." Still nothing. Then it clicked. She was a woman alone late at night, empty train, and I was a strange man moving into her space, twitchy and desperate. She wasn't ignoring me. She was protecting herself. She thought I was the threat. Well, I backed off a few more steps, hands up, showing her I wasn't a threat. "Please," I said slow and sharp, every word cut clean for her to read. She still couldn't hear me, but she was watching. Finally, she moved, reached into her bag, and pulled out a canister. "This is mace," she said, a voice full of fire. "Back off or I light you up. Trust me, it burns." I almost laughed, almost cried. She hadn't even hit the trigger yet. When I shook my head, hands low now, slicing side to side in front of my face like I was trying to part the air. I dragged out the word infectious. I said it pointing past her toward the man in the seat. And she kept the mace aimed at me, finger tight on the button, but she was reading my lips and something finally clicked. She dropped her arm, turned, and really looked at him for the first time. Her eyes darkened. She looked back at me and swore loud. The headphones came off and hung around her neck. She rose slowly like her body already knew the weight of bad news. "What is it?" she asked. "I don't know," I said, because it was the truth. I called 911. Dispatcher told me to get away from him. I left out the rest. The strange tone, the tension, the silence that said more than words ever could. "Look, come on," I said and moved. My legs felt hollow, though, like I was walking on dead branches. She followed, quiet now. Just before we crossed into the next carriage, I turned and looked back. The man hadn't moved, but the stain across his face had grown, like a bruise crawling under his skin, half his face now lost in shadow. I shivered and kept walking. The other carriages were dead silent. No passengers, no one. Had they gotten off already or they'd never been here? That suited me fine. I didn't have it in me to play shepherd anymore. Few long minutes later, we reached the front. The far end of the carriage was a heavy door. I figured it led to the driver's cabin. Thought about banging on it, maybe yanking the emergency brake, but my head was buzzing, spinning, chasing static. Then I remembered. I still had the phone in my hand. I pulled it up. "Hey, you still there?" I asked. "Yes," the voice came back. "You at the front carriage? We are just two of us left." "What now?" This time the answer came quick. "Stay where you are. Alpha Team has been mobilized." "What? Alpha Team?" I'd never heard EMTs called that before. Didn't matter though. Help was coming and I clung to that. Then something sparked in me. "Hey, I said, there's another stub coming up. We'll get off there and safer, I guess." I waited for confirmation, for common sense, for anything. Silence. The woman had been tracking my words, though, and she gave me a look. Half hope, half doubt. I tried to smile, told her. Just waiting for their call. They're probably talking to the driver, updating the team. I filled in the blanks with whatever I could, desperate for someone else to take over to fix it all. She didn't look convinced, but the next station was coming up fast. I smiled again, eyes on the window, waiting for that slow grind of brakes, for the train to stop, for the doors to hiss open and the cool night to wrap around us like a promise. Only the train wasn't slowing down. I saw the platform slide into view, the station sign flashing past, and then it was gone. We were still moving fast. "Hey, we didn't stop," I shouted into the phone. No answer. Took me a second to realize the call had dropped. I stared at the screen like it might fix itself, then looked up at the woman. "What's going on?" she asked. I had nothing. My mind was trying to find something, anything to say when the PA crackled overhead. "This is your driver. Been informed there's a medical emergency on board. We're going straight to the next station. Paramedics are waiting." Relief hit me like a warm wave. Finally, someone else was stepping in. Someone who knew what the hell they were doing. I grinned. Couldn't help it. She smiled back. First time she'd really looked at me. She was beautiful. I was alone. Hated it. And then right away, I thought maybe if I asked her for a number, she'd give it. I was just working up the nerve about to open my mouth when we entered a tunnel. The windows turned black. Walls outside racing past like shadows with nowhere to go. Then the train slammed to a stop hard. Staggered sideways. Caught myself before I went down though. What the? Darkness. Full blackout. Couldn't see a damn thing. And a dim square of light blinked on. It was her phone. The glow lit her face, her nerves, the way she tried to play calm but wasn't. She pointed the flashlight my way. "Call 911 again now." I fumbled for the phone, punched in my passcode, and cursed. "No signal," I growled. She turned her phone to herself and tapped hard. "Same here," she said. Well, enough was enough. If no one was coming, we'd go straight to the driver. Switched on my flashlight, aiming it around for the emergency lever. Before I could reach for it, the cabin door clicked open, and a figure stepped into the gloom, broad, solid, mid-60s, maybe in a transit uniform. Yelled an old-school flashlight, not one of those phone gimmicks. The beam cut across us as he spoke. "You folks all right?" Gravel was in his voice. Not really, I thought, but the woman gave a nod, and so did I. "Good," he muttered. Truth is, I got no clue what's going on either. 1 minute control screaming at me to push to the next stop. Real urgent. So, I gun it. Next thing, I'm in the tunnel. There's a red light ahead. That means stop. No exceptions. Hit the brakes. Radio back for an update. Nothing. Radio silence. It's damn strange. Can't you just keep going? The woman asked. It's not safe staying here. He let out a breath and shrugged his big shoulders. Red light's a red light, he said. Doesn't matter if the world's ending. No driver runs one. That's how people die. That's how you end up on the front page. The guy who killed a train full of strangers. I'm not going to be that guy. While controls twiddling their thumbs, figured I'd go see the passenger. Maybe I can help. He lifted the first aid kit he'd been holding. Well, the woman beat me to it. She stepped forward and said sharp and fast, "We need to stay away from him. He's infected." Then she turned to me. "That's what they told you, right?" I stared down at the floor and my mouth dried up. I hadn't been told anything really. Just heard the dispatcher's tone, the silence, the tension. My own fear had filled in the blanks. Probably, I muttered. Well, it sounded weak, pitiful even, and I hated myself for it. The driver let out a low growl. "Well, if I know what that means," he muttered, voice edged like rusted steel. "Now, I'm not standing here arguing about who said what, while someone on this train might be dying." Just like that, he turned and started marching down the carriage. I didn't move, but the woman went after him, hesitant, but determined. I didn't want to follow. Every nerve in my body screamed to stay the hell back. But being alone in that black, silent car, that was worse. I'd seen enough late-night horror flicks to know how that ends. So, swearing under my breath, I followed. The train had transformed into something else in the dark. A narrow, choking corridor that stank of fear. The driver's flashlight flickered ahead, carving shapes from the shadows. The woman was just behind him. They were both heading straight to the man. That man. Well, I caught up. The body was still slumped in the same seat, legs spread played like a discarded mannequin. First, I only saw his feet, but then I stepped past the driver, drawn in like a moth to something cold and final. The woman stood frozen, hand over her mouth. She didn't scream, but she was close. I stepped into the light and saw him. His skin, what was left of it, had darkened into something truly rotten, like meat left out in the sun too long. The sickly color had spread all over, a death mask of decay. His eyes were wide open, milky and lifeless, sunk into collapsing sockets. The flesh around them had caved in. Flies crawled through his scalp, slow and greedy, like they'd already claimed him. But the rattling was gone. His mouth hung slack and silent. No breath, no twitch, no lie. Fought down the bile rising in my throat, burning like acid, and turned to the driver. My voice cracked, barely a whisper. Satisfied now? "I don't get it," he muttered. "Yeah," I said, my mouth dry. "Me neither. Let's get the hell out of here. Let someone else deal with this." He nodded slowly and lowered the flashlight. The corpse vanishing into the dark again like it had never been there. "Ah, there's a door control in the back. Can pop the doors, walk the tracks." "Sounds perfect," I muttered. But the woman didn't move. She kept staring at the thing that used to be a man. "We should cover him out of respect." Respect? There was no respect left on this train. Just death and something worse trailing behind it. "Forget it," I snapped, brushing her elbow just enough to push her forward. Wasn't trying to be gentle. I just needed her to move. Now she started walking again, slow at first, and I stuck close. The driver was ahead of us, carving a path through the dark with his flashlight. And then she stopped cold, spun around, her mouth opened, and this time the scream came sharp and raw. I whipped around just as the flashlight beam swept over the spot we'd left him in. The seat was empty. The corpse wasn't sitting anymore. It was standing. Part 3. I blinked hard, convinced I was seeing things, hallucinating. When I looked again, it was still there. Its back to us, perfectly still. The only thing moving was the cloud of flies circling its skull like vultures. I guess they'd scattered when it rose. Even the flies got the hell out, I thought, nearly laughing. But the laugh died somewhere in my throat. This wasn't real. Couldn't be. Dead things don't stand up. Yeah. There it was, slowly turning, awkward and unsure, like he had forgotten how its limbs worked. Then it was facing us. His eyes were red and swollen like they'd been cooked in their sockets. His cracked lips peeled back in a twitching, jerky sneer, revealing rows of dirty yellow teeth. Its arms rose stiff and shaking, reaching for the flashlight's glow like it wanted to grab the light itself. "Men," it moved, shuffling inch by inch. "Run," the driver said low, but urgent. I heard him, but it was like my body had been unplugged. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I just watched. His voice came again, louder now, cutting through the panic fog. Still nothing. Then her hand was on my face. She turned my head to hers, tears streaking her cheeks. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "We have to run." That broke it. I nodded once hard. And then the spell was shattered. The three of us bolted, crashing through the dark, stumbling but fast. Behind us, the thing gave a strangled warped hound. All fury and agony wrapped in rocks. It couldn't keep up. Its legs barely worked, but it followed anyway, dragging itself forward, screaming at our backs. We reached the last carriage. The driver slammed his key into the lock, threw the door open, and vanished through. A green light blinked above the handle. I hit it like my life depended on it, because it did, and the driver reappeared, pulling me through. "Watch, there's a drop," he said, breathless. "Close and lock the door behind you. Buttons behind that hatch. Do it fast." I didn't argue. I hit the button. The door hissed shut and sealed with a heavy thunk. "You touched the middle rail," he said, "you're cooked. Stick to the edge." I pressed myself to the tunnel wall, hard hammering, sweat pouring, and moved as fast as I could without slipping. We pushed forward until finally the tunnel cracked open to the outside. Night air hit my face. Cold and real. Above us, stars, but no street lights, no buildings, no cars, just emptiness. "It's a long walk to the next platform," the driver said. "We stay safe. Walk alongside the track now, not on it." His beam lit up a shoulder-high embankment choked with weeds running parallel to the rail. We climbed and we didn't look back. I herself up onto the embankment first and she came right behind me, muttering under her breath. As she scrambled over the edge, she cursed, "Damn it, I dropped my phone." The driver chuckled at this, a deep rumbling laugh that cut through the tension like a warm blade. It was the first time I'd heard anything close to normal all night. "Don't sweat it, miss," he said. "I can see it. I'll grab it and catch up." He stepped back down toward the tracks, crouched low, and came up holding the phone like a trophy. She gave him a thumbs up, but then stopped, dead still. Something new sliced into the night air, a mechanical rattling, getting louder fast. We turned toward the sound just as the dark silhouette of a helicopter slid into view. The driver whooped. "Ah, here's the cavalry," he shouted, grinning. He started waving one arm, phone in the other, flashlight held high. The woman and I just stared. A chill crawled up my spine. Something felt wrong. I mean, why a helicopter? Why not a police SUV grinding down the tracks or a flashing ambulance pushing through the dark? This thing low, dark, and loud. It didn't fit. She must have caught my shift in posture because she said, half convinced, "It's probably an air ambulance. That'd be the fastest way to get here." Sure, it should have been, but the bird was close now and too close. And I could see clearly. No logos, no cross, no medical markings, just cold steel and worrying blades. It dropped lower, slowing, hovering a few dozen feet from the driver. He'd stopped waving now. I think he knew right then. I think it hit him. And he was right. Sharp crack split the night. A gunshot clean and merciless. The driver spun once like a puppet with cut strings and then collapsed. I watched, waiting, wishing for him to move, willing him to just twitch, to groan of something. But there was nothing. Just darkness swallowing him home. "They killed him," the woman whispered. Her voice cracked, but I had no words. Nothing I could say would change it. Whoever was in that chopper, they weren't here to save anyone. They came to end something. The weight of that truth slammed into my gut and survival kicked in. I dropped low, crawling backwards through the weeds, slow and silent. No sudden moves, no sound. The helicopter crew hadn't noticed us. Not yet. We had to keep it that way. She got the message fast, rolled onto her stomach, and started crawling after me. She caught up, grabbed my sleeve, and jerked ahead towards something behind us. I craned my neck and spotted it. A line of trees dense and shadowed like a black wall in the night. The chopper's engine still rumbled low like a beast waiting to pounce. We bolted for the cover of the trees, crashing through the underbrush, breath ragged. Once under the canopy, we dropped to our knees, chests heaving. I didn't dare switch on my phone's flashlight. No way I'd give away our position, but my eyes had adjusted enough to make out her face. Tears strayed down it, cutting tracks through the dirt. I didn't even catch his name, she whispered, voice roar. The driver, he said something about grandkids. My stomach turned to ice. No, me neither. She let out a long breath, then stuck out a hand. I'm Caitlin. Joel, I replied. We shook hands. It felt strangely formal, stupid even. It grounded us for a second. Gave the chaos some shape. Well, nice to meet you, Joel, she said, voice dry. Now, what the hell do we do? I exhaled. I honestly don't know. I could try 911 again, but I bet anything the call would be rerouted straight to whoever sent that chopper. She raised an eyebrow. That's some serious tinfoil-held energy you're giving off right there. I shrugged. Well, it's not paranoia if they're actually hunting you. Yeah, fair enough. She nodded grimly. What about someone you can trust? Family? Friends? I shook my head. I live alone. No real friends. Parents are gone. She gave a tired laugh then. Same. Moved across the country to start fresh with my boyfriend. Found out last week he was sleeping around. Her voice cracked. She stopped. Didn't know what to say. And then the night split open. A deep boom rolled across the trees. Instinct took over. We dropped arms over our heads. Debris rained somewhere nearby. After a beat, I looked up. You okay? I asked. Caitlin nodded, dazed, shaken, heartbroken. I think I'm okay. The sound had come from the tracks. She crawled to the edge of the trees and peeked out. I followed, my heart pounding. Smoke was pouring from the tunnel entrance like a slow-moving storm cloud. Above it, the helicopter banked hard in a wide arc, and I think they just fired a missile at the train, she said, barely a whisper. Destroying the evidence, I muttered, stunned. As the smoke billowed into the sky, the chopper peeled off, disappearing into the dark. Silence fell, thick, unnatural, but it didn't last. Faint at first, then louder. Sirens getting closer. Oh, my chest clenched. Come on, we got to go now. She gave me a tight nod and we pushed deeper into the woods. My thoughts were scattered, manic. This morning I was just another burned-out ad guy. Now I was running like a hunted animal. No clue where I was headed or what nightmare was coming next. I glanced sideways at Caitlin. A thin red line ran down her cheek. Scratch from a branch. Maybe just one more mark in a night full of wounds. Her face was set, jaw clenched, eyes burning with focus. She wasn't giving up. And for a second, I clung to that. At least I'm not alone, I told myself, forcing my legs to keep moving as the sirens behind us rose and fell, chasing ghosts through the dark. We kept going, stumbling, shivering. No clue how long we were walking or how far we'd gotten from the wreckage in the tunnel. Time had lost all shape. Eventually, the trees started to thin and something solid loomed up ahead. A building out on open ground. I collapsed, dropped there, where I stood like someone had cut my strings. I'm done, I rested. Can't take another damn step. Caitlin sat down next to me, body trembling, chest heaving. Took a full minute before she could get a word out. Can you try your phone? Maybe get our location. It's not much, but it's something. Yeah. I panted, fumbling it out. 3 bars. A miracle. Then a news alert lit up the screen and the headline stopped my breath cold. Commuter train destroyed in collision with freight train. I tapped the link, turned the screen so Caitlin could read it too. The story laid it all out, or tried to. Said a passenger train had broken down in a tunnel and was slammed into by a high-speed freight train carrying industrial chemicals. 1 confirmed dead, the commuter train driver. More casualties likely. Officials cited a possible signal fault. The whole thing stank of polished. My stomach turned. It's all lies, I muttered. A clean, easy cover-up. Gayen's face darkened. Think they'll just list us among the dead when they tidy up the story. The thought was crawling through my head and it was ugly, but I couldn't shake it. And I couldn't lie to her. That might work for us, I said slowly. They think we're still on that train. It means they're not looking for us out here. Means we, might actually have a shot at getting away. Caitlin recoiled, disgust flashing in her eyes. I didn't blame her. I just felt sick even saying it. I can't walk away from this, she said, her voice raw. I can't forget that driver or the thing that came out of the train. He was someone once, probably a good man, better than either of us. Someone out there loved him. Maybe a wife, maybe kids. Now he's gone and they've turned him into a footnote in history. I couldn't meet her eyes. The shame twisted in my gut like broken glass. I needed to do something or anything. There's got to be a contact, I said quickly, thumbing through the site. Phone number and email. I told the newsroom what really happened anonymously. Maybe we can expose this. Maybe we can do something that matters. I found the number, hovered over the screen. Then Caitlin's hand closed around my wrist. Wait, she said sharply. We don't know. They think we're dead. For all we know, they're still hunting us. Maybe, I muttered, not convinced. But why should that stop me from calling the news desk? Decent journalists won't sell us out. Once the truth's out there, we're untouchable. Caitlin shook her head. No, won't get that far. They've got your name, your number, all from the 911 call. If they're smart, and they are, they've set up triggers. Second you make another call, something somewhere lights up. I stared at the phone, thumb frozen over the screen. Felt like every choice had a trip wire buried underneath it. We were walking a minefield, blindfolded. Yeah, I said after a beat, my voice low. They don't need you to make a call. Just having your phone switched on is enough. They can trace it, pinpoint your location without you doing a damn thing. Caitlin cursed under her breath, sharp and vicious. That was all the combination I needed. I didn't make the call. Instead, I powered the phone off, ripped out the SIM card, yanked out the battery, and tossed the whole thing into the dark. Didn't make me feel any safer, just more exposed, if anything. Then Caitlin started crawling forward. Wait, I hissed. We can't just sit here. She whispered back. We can't stay here either. I hesitated. God, I wanted the earth just to crack open and suck me down into the dark. No more decisions, no more running. But the ground didn't care. It stayed cold, solid, and indifferent under my boots. I swallowed the fear and followed. The building came into focus as we crept closer. A diner worn down and lonely. A single truck idled in the lot. In the yellow light of the window, a man stood outlined, cigarette glowing like a signal flare. Took one last drag, crushed the butt beneath his boot, then headed back toward his truck. Caitlin was watching him. I was watching her. All I could think stupidly, selfishly, was how I wished I had met her under different circumstances. No walking corpses, no black helicopters, no blood on her hands. Just a bar, maybe a smile, a slow drink. Well, she caught me staring. Didn't even try to hide it. This really isn't the time to get romantic, she said, eyebrow raised. Heat flared in my face. God, I felt like an idiot until she smiled just slightly. There was this faint glint in her eyes that cut through the dread like a match in the dark. I grinned back. So, if now is not the time for a proposal, what is the next step? Our answer came without hesitation. Keep moving. Put as much ground between them and us and that tunnel as we can. Then maybe we can figure out what the hell to do next. She stood, brushed off her jeans, and headed straight for the trucker. Come as anything like asking strangers for rides was just her thing. 5 minutes later, we were in the cab rolling down the highway like nothing was wrong. We passed cop cars going the other way, lights flashing, sirens screaming, and every time one tore past us, my gut twisted up like barbed wire. Luckily, all the cruisers were heading the other way, and none of them turned around. I figured they didn't really know what went down in that tunnel. The grunts on the ground were clueless, kept in the dark by the brass pulling the strings in the shadows. The suits at the top, they knew just like I did. That kind of truth, not light to carry. Still, as the miles rolled by and night stretched on, the hum of the road and the heat in the cab started to wear me down. My head got heavy, and before I knew it, I was out cold. Next thing I knew, Caitlin was shaking me awake. Time to move, she said, eyes already scanning outside. I blinked hard, trying to adjust. Dawn was bleeding into the sky. We're on the edge of some city. Low, ugly buildings line the street, most of them crumbling. Few high-rises loomed in the distance like half-forgotten promises. Paint peeled from storefronts. Broken windows were boarded up with rotten plywood. Graffiti clung to every wall like scars. Caitlin leaned up to the driver. Hey, can you stop here? The truck groaned to a halt. We jumped out. Hey, why here? I asked. Wouldn't it be safer downtown? Decent buildings, working locks, maybe even a bed without rats. She didn't even flinch, though. We already have a place, she said, face stone cold. She lifted her arm through mine and steered me down the street. We passed a bar that looked like it belonged in a war zone, windows shuttered, music thumping, glass shattering somewhere inside. Farther down, we came to a squat building. Alone between two weak choked lots. Looked like gravity had been trying to drag it down for years, but somehow it still stood. A flickering vacancy sign blinked weakly in the window. Part 4. Well, what a goddamn delight, I muttered. Figured a dump like this would be book solid. Kane gave me a mock punch in the back of her head. Wise ass. We paid cash at the front desk. The guy behind it didn't ask questions, just grunted, scratched his shoulder where, dark hair curled out from under his stained white tank top, and handed over the key. Once we were in the room, bare bulb, peeling wallpaper, mattress that felt like it was stuffed with bricks, Cannon finally told me why we'd landed in this hellhole. They're setting traps. They'll go digital first. Facial recognition, movement alerts all over the city center. Out here though, nothing. Didn't see a single camera when we rolled through. How do they even know what I look like? I asked, trying not to sound as panicked as I felt. They've got your name and number, she said flatly. From there, it's child's play. Social media, company website, profile photos. They'll have your face on every screen from here to the border by the time the sun's fully up. That's just the start. You use your card, they'll trace the transaction and light up another alert. They'll know exactly where to find you. I sank onto the bed. The springs groaned under me. Felt like hope was leaking out of my bones. So, I can't call anyone. Can't use my card. Can't even shove my face on the street. I said, what the hell can I do? Caitlin smiled, a rare razor-edged grin. They didn't know who I am. So sit tight, keep your head down, and I'll go shopping. And then she was gone. Left alone in that damp, filthy room, the silence started chewing on my nerves. Part of me figured she wasn't coming back. I mean, why would she? She had a credit card, clean clothes, and vanished into any corner of the country without a second thought. I sat there sweating, the minutes dragging like chains. Felt like I was slowly being smothered by the stale air. Then the door creaked and there she was, Caitlin, back from the dead. Relief hit me like a punch to the gut and I jumped to my feet just standing there wide-eyed as she dumped her haul on the bed. Cola, chips, toothbrushes, toothpaste, spare clothes, and a battered old laptop that looked like it had survived Y2K and got it from some hole-in-the-wall place that sells everything from dumbbells to rat poison. She muttered, sliding a USB stick from her pocket. Pay-as-you-go internet, she added. Now, let's see how deep this hole goes. We booted up the ancient machine and hit the news first. Specifically, anything about the mess by the tunnel. Well, the story had made the rounds. Plenty of noise, no substance, no body count, no follow-ups. In a twisted way, that was good news. Meant maybe, just maybe, the authorities had written me off as a corpse, and all the digital alarm bells we were paranoid about, well, maybe they didn't exist yet. Next stop was the Midas Institute's website, the outfit that had hired the walking corpse as a research associate before things went sideways. Their page was the usual corporate glitter, vague promises, and hollow buzzwords. Biochemistry, government contracts, Heil clients, a big glossy pile of nothing. We dug into the Who Are We section, skipped past the suit at the top, the CEO, the department heads, and made it to the research associates. The guy from the train, he wasn't listed. Wiping someone off the net's easier than figuring out what they have for breakfast, Caitlin said, cracking open a bag of chips. Spent the rest of the day bouncing between new sites, watching for anything new, snacking and letting exhaustion catch up to us. I crashed in a chair with stuffing leaking from the arms while Caitlin curled up on the bed, headphones still around her neck. She slid them on, not to listen to anything, just for the comfort of the silence. When the sun dipped low, she went out and came back with a pizza. We ate in near silence. Somewhere between bites, I thought about my job for the first time. Anyone noticed I was gone? Called, sent a text. Doubt it. Probably already filled my seat with some poor bastard and told him to work weekends for free. Good luck with that, muttered to myself, tearing into another greasy slice. From then on, our days took on a rhythm. Strange but steady. Caitlin started picking up paper newspapers, crinkled copies of both local and national rags. We chewed through them along with the online feeds, hunting for anything about the tunnel. But the trail was drying up fast. The story had lost its shine. The headlines had moved on, and the powers that be, they were already slipping back into the shadows. But while we scoured for answers, we started finding other stories. The CEO of the Midas Institute had gotten mowed down while out jogging. Hidden run, no witnesses, no suspect, no clues. Dead before he'd even hit the pavement. Just another name in a police report. The little collect dust. Not long after, a warehouse in the same district as the Institute's headquarters went up in flames, burned to the bones. With a little digging, we traced the place back to one of the Institute's shell companies. Another loose end that had been scorched clean. Well, then came the chopper crash. Military bird gone down in what's being spoon-fed to the public as a training accident. No survivors, not a single one. To anyone else, these stories were just background noise. Random bursts of chaos in the daily news feed. But we weren't anyone else. No, we knew the threads were being cut one by one. The cover-up hadn't stopped. It was accelerating. Still, after a week, the original story about the tunnel accident was vanishing from the news cycle. No follow-ups, no new angles, just buried under fresher distractions. With each day that passed without a new headline, the news around our necks loosened just a little. The heat was fading. For the first time, I felt like maybe we were in the clear. One morning, while Caitlin was out gathering supplies, I was stuck in the stink of that room, staring at the peeling walls. God, the place was foul, cramped, a prison cell in all but name. I snapped. Just needed 10 minutes of open sky. Air that didn't taste like rot. Colleen wouldn't even know. You wouldn't have to know that I'd stepped out. So, I went. First time out since we'd locked ourselves in that dump. And man, it felt like breathing for the first time in weeks. Sure, the neighborhood was beaten down, graffiti stained, and half abandoned. But to me, it was freedom. I wandered through an empty lot, crunching broken bricks underfoot, and followed a cracked sidewalk until I stumbled on a path. Overgrown, crashed, glass shards and butts everywhere. When I sat on a half-rotted bench at its edge, I could almost pretend I was somewhere normal, somewhere sane. I smiled for the first time in days. Caitlin will be back soon, and I didn't want her asking questions, so I peeled myself off the bench and started back. Lost in my head, I took a wrong turn, ended up the next street over. Thought nothing of it, though. Figured I'd just cut across and be back in no time. That's when I saw the drugstore on the corner, and the security cam mounted to the wall across from it. My gut flipped. I froze. The lens stared straight at me and I was staring right back at it. That buzz of freedom gone, ripped away. I bolted, didn't stop until I was through the lobby and up the stairs. Key fumbling in my hands like I'd forgotten how fingers worked. I slammed the door shut behind me and dropped to the floor, pulling my knees tight to my chest, heart hammering so loud I thought he'd give me away. Gain got back half an hour later. No chance of playing it cool. I was wrecked. Told her everything. She listened, jaw clenched, then started pacing the room, spitting curses under her breath. I said, trying to believe it myself, but she didn't answer, just kept pacing. Caitlin's pacing dragged her to the window. She froze, eyes locked on the street below. Then she turned, her voice sharp and low. It's them. They're here. I bolted upright and joined her at the glass. There it was. A black van idling near the drugstore. Another pulling up tight to the bar. Men and women climbing out, hair clipped short in that regulation military way, dressed like generic office drones in plain suits. But their moves were all muscle memory and menace. They were already pounding on doors, flashing IDs like badges, and shoving their way inside the moment the locks clicked. Somewhere, some facial recognition program had pinged my face, and the system lit up. An alarm was pushed and the dogs were unleashed. Now, it was just a countdown to the knock on our door. I knew I was still breathing. The cover-up was back in motion. We need to move now. Caitlin barked, already bolting for the door. But I stayed frozen, my feet rooted to the spot. What are you doing? She hissed. Believe me, I said. They don't know who you are. You've still got a chance to disappear. She didn't even blink. Not happening. We're in this together. We stick to the same store, and when we go public, we back each other up. Then, just for a beat, she looked away. A flicker of something softer breaking through. And besides, I've kind of gotten used to having you around. A wild time for confessions. But hell, she had a way of making even that sound like strategy. Grayer things had happened, like how we'd introduced ourselves with formal handshakes back when this nightmare started. Well, I didn't need convincing. I rushed to her side and we sprinted for the exit. But we were already too slow. One of the stone-faced women in a gray suit was flashing a badge at the front desk. The receptionist's eyes darted between us and her. First he looked panicked. Then they lit up like a Christmas tree. That's him, he shouted. Who with a girl? The woman turned, zeroing in on us, a thin-lipped smile twitching onto her face as her hand dropped to the holster at her side, but she didn't get the chance. Caitlin launched herself at her. No warning, no hesitation, crashed into her like a bullet. The agent hit the floor hard. Then Caitlin was vaulting over her and yelling at me, "Move, damn it." And I did. Didn't need to hear it twice. I vaulted over the woman, just barely dodging a wild kick aimed at my ankles. She had the sidearm now, dragging it up fast, finger tightening on the trigger. I bolted into the street. More suits were turning towards us across the road. Then the sharp crack of a gunshot ripped through the air. She'd pulled the trigger. Her crew hit the deck instinctively, heads ducking, giving us a sliver of time. We tore down the block, ignoring every shout to freeze, weaving like ghosts through grimy alleyways, scrambling over crumbling walls. Then Caitlin snapped in here. She yanked me by the arm, dragging me into a busted-up building. I dropped my knees. Then Caitlin slumped against the cracked wall, pressing her palm to her stomach where blood soaked through her shirt. She peeled up the fabric, eyes cold and distant. "Well, never been shot before," she said. The bitter laugh barely masking her pain. She was shaking. Breaths were short and shallow. I leaned in, gripping her hand tight. "You're going to be okay. We'll get you patched up at the ER. While they're fixing you, I'm going to make sure the world knows about these stone-cold killers." Another rough laugh rattled out of her throat, like it tore something inside. She cut my cheek weakly, managing a faint smile. "That's not going to happen," she whispered, every word ripping fresh agony. "You have to go. Neither of our cards work now. You need cash." She pulled off her headphones, the same ones I'd noticed right back at the start, back when all this nightmare had begun, and pressed them into my hand. "No, I can't," I said, try to push them back. That crooked smile appeared again. "Don't be stupid. Take them. Sell them. Keep moving till you're safe." Then low and deadly. "One word of advice. Don't use the train." Caitlin was the most incredible woman I'd ever met. Kind of beauty that cuts through the darkest night. Kissed her forehead. The first time I said it, "I love you." But it was too late. She'd slipped away. I did what she told me. Kiss every goddamn odd I made it. Headed towards Los Angeles now. Off the grid, living in the shadows. Pain of losing Caitlin burns claws at me every damn second. But it also fuels me. They tried to silence me, but they failed. I think I know what this zombie virus really is. Made it towards the company's headquarters in Los Angeles. One day soon, the truth will burn through the lies. You know what? I think this is my favorite genre. I don't know. It's something I've always loved. I used to look around me all the time back when The Walking Dead was just starting out and had my escape plans for wherever I was. Which building would I get into? Where would my source of water be? How would I maintain my safety from the zombie horde? I don't know. Call me crazy, but I don't know. It was a nice hobby at the time. Don't do it so much now, I guess. I don't know. Don't know why, to be honest. Should be thinking about that more, I think, these days. Anyway, this is me waffling after recording that all in one go. Hope you enjoyed that. Another zombie story for you. It is my favorite genre. I have to say it really is. Anyway, so yeah, it's a Thursday night. I'll be back again tomorrow on the other channel with a new podcast episode and back here again at the weekend continuing one of those series I've been neglecting for the past few weeks. Thanks as ever, my dear friends. Remember, it's just a story and you sleep well. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.